finally got some rain. It's been like drought conditions for a little while, but we had a little bit of rain last week, but it rained a bit last night. It's supposed to be raining for the rest of the week, so I wanted to come out before it got too crazy. Show you my trees, the ones that were in the Jeep on the way home. I've got 4 plum trees planted here. Got a methily, and then I've got Santa Rosa, and another methily, another Santa Rosa. And they're looking pretty healthy. These are about 3 weeks old now. I got some little discoloration, but I don't see anything that really makes me too concerned. I've got healthy on the tips. When I planted them, I did prune out a couple, not a whole lot, but I did prune out some of the limbs. And I noticed right after we planted it, I did a lot of watering. I watered them twice a day, and it looked almost like the trunks were splitting. But I've noticed that on so many of these, so many spots on this tree that I'm not thinking that it's necessarily a bad thing. We don't have the roots covered completely with mulch. You can see there's the dirt right there, but I did want to build this bowl kind of so that when we watered them it would pool kind of right there and then seep down into the roots. And this mulch is actually just a bunch of wood chips that we got last year. I processed deer in the fall, and so we bury the deer carcasses with these wood chips, and so when we move them around here, we end up with bone pieces. You know, there's some bone fragment back there. Here's some more bone fragment here. So there's little bone fragments in all of it. I'd crush that up if I could, but I don't really have a way to. And then my chickens run around in the chicken yard and stir that up for, months while they eat bugs and stuff. And so this mulch is essentially a bunch of old chicken manure, and bones and wood chips. Anyway, here's my Santa Rosa, one of them. Again, looks pretty good. I don't see anything growing out from underneath the what's that thing called? The union between the plum and the scion and the rootstock, whatever it is. I did prune this off because it was trying to grow from right there at the bottom, and I didn't want anything low on it because I didn't want fungus and stuff splattering up from the ground. It's already putting out a bunch of new growth. I think these trees were stressed because they had some little baby plums on them when we first put them in, and so I pulled all the little baby plums off of them because I didn't want the tree trying to reproduce. This one's the only one that actually worries me or concerns me. It's because I keep getting sap out of the bottom here. I've broken it off. It's kind of like jelly. I've pulled it off several times now, and the tree feels solid. I don't feel any soft spot in that, and I've not seen any holes behind any of it. So I don't know what I'm doing either. That's clear about that. I don't have a clue what I'm doing with these. My wife wanted plums, or wanted some trees, and I really like plums, so we bought some and put them in here. The internet that is always right, never lies, told me that could be some kind of a rot or a borer, and so I checked for soft and I checked for holes and I didn't see any. So I'm not sure what that is. But the tree, it's 3 weeks old, and it looks pretty good. It also has what looks like it's splitting from the inside out, but I don't have any real dead spots anywhere on it, so I'm pretty happy with that. And then this is my last Santa Rosa, and I did them in alphabetical order, so I'd always remember methily, elm first, methily, and then Santa Rosa, methily, Santa Rosa. And we got the 2 different kinds, so they would make it, you know, do some cross-pollination. My neighbors over there are beekeepers, so I'm pretty excited about that. Anyway, and this little tree, my wife has been trying to get rid of this thing for years, and I don't blame her, because for years and years it was just this, just some nasty dead tree nastiness. And so I decided that I was gonna do a ton of pruning last year on it and really just broke out all the dead stuff. And then this year, all of a sudden, it produced leaves. What I wonder, we've got a whole home water filter system. Here's some more blackberries, by the way. Pretty excited about those things. Anyway, we've got a whole home water filtration system underneath that rock, and the drain line, they set it up so it drained over here at the corner of our entryway, and so I think it put salt water. It was a saltwater purge. You know, it purged back through the salt. I think it flooded this for the first couple of years. I ended up running that line all the way out to the road. So I don't know. I think maybe that helped it. And then here we've got our flower bed of sorts, and we've got these things that are some kind of bulb. For Mother's Day last year, I got my wife one of those assorted bulb things. Just kind of went to Lowe's and found a bag that was real pretty, because I knew we wanted this kind of stuff, and put them in here, and they've started growing and actually reproducing. Like, we only put one bulb here last year, but now we've got both of those starting to come in. Same thing over here, we only put one, but those are going to flower here pretty soon, I think. And we've got whatever this is starting to grow up. Yeah. My little girls with their little, what are those things called? Little rabbit, little elephant. So, anyway, I'll show you too the chicken yard. It's on this side. Here, we'll go around. All right, here's the chickens. So you can see. Oh, excited, I see. Easy. Yep. Excuse me, we're over here to talk. Anyway, so I don't actually like this. I mean, it doesn't bother me, but it's not the way I want my yard to look. Just like a pet cemetery, all these bones and stuff out here. But I'll put them here, and then I cover them with a ton of wood chips, and then I'll drop a few more carcasses, and then cover them with wood chips, and drop a few more carcasses and cover them with wood chips, and so it ends up being, you know, pretty big. It's, you know, like 4 feet tall and like 8 or 10 feet long and pretty wide. And then after it sits for a while, we turn the chickens loose out here, and they slowly spread this all the way around and whatnot. So, and we dig up that dirt. We're going to end up doing we dig up that dirt and stuff to plant in. We're eventually going to do some raised beds on this side so that we can keep the chickens out of our food production. But yeah, there's and then right over here's where my daughter has her little, I don't even know what you would call that thing, whatever that is. I've showed y'all pictures of that before. Anyway, I wanted to kind of do a little bit of a tour. I want to show off my plum trees. I'm pretty excited about those. And wanted to give a little tour too. I saw we're real good friends with Carol Harrod, the homestead realtor. We've been friends with that guy for a long time. He actually lives right next door to us. And somebody made a comment on one of his posts a while back. Said, wait a minute, the farm next door is like actually next door, and I thought, you know, it's probably a thing I should mention, that we call our little farm the farm next door, because it is. We live in a neighborhood in a cul-de-sac. I process deer in the fall in a neighborhood with a cul-de-sac, and we're trying to grow. Our vision, our hope, is to grow garlic and lavender and plums and peppers, and probably tomatoes and cucumbers, because those are easy. But you know, peppers and garlic and plums and lavender, and then blueberries or blackberries are pretty high on our priority list, plus our eggs. And I guess a little bit of the story, maybe I'll try to break this up into several videos, I don't know, but a little bit of the story. We, man, I like watching our chickens. You know, this silly thing hanging out on top of the water bucket. Anyway, I was in the Navy for a long time, for 22 years, and one of my duty stations, my second to last duty station, I was deployed for pretty close to 2 years out of a 3-year period. I was gone from my family for about 2 years of it. And when we were moving back to the States, I told my kids, you know, I'm not going to be deploying anymore. We're going to go to a duty station that's good for the family, and we'll be able to you know, be together and have a house, and I'm going to be home. And then after a couple years, I'm going to retire and live in. The plan was to live in base housing or rent for, and then I was going to retire, and we were going to buy some property in East Tennessee. And when we bought the property in East Tennessee, we were going to start our little homestead. Well, it just so happened that the day I was supposed to check into this duty station was, man, listen to those birds. It's a good sound. The day I was supposed to check into this duty station was the same day Hurricane Florence was hitting North Carolina. And so we were delayed a little bit getting here. And when we got here, like, tons of houses were damaged. Base housing was pretty well destroyed. It was bad. And so we can go into more details if anybody cares about those. But in the end, we couldn't find anywhere to rent. Some friends of ours let us squat in their house that they weren't able to sell at the time, and so we squatted for a handful of months, and then started looking for somewhere to live again. And it was crazy. I'll tell that story in detail sometime, but it was definitely crazy. We ended up finding this place, got here, and like made an offer from the driveway, and bought the place. And I told my kids over and over again, you know, I'm not deploying anymore. Next, we're gonna rent for a little while, and then we're gonna buy a house. And when we buy a house, we're gonna start a little farm. My kids were kind of young at the time, and so they got all excited when they heard a little farm. And they said, so when we buy a house, we're gonna get like farm animals, like chickens? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And then we bought this little house here in this neighborhood. And to my kids, we lived in a hotel for like 3 straight months because there was no houses, and then we squatted in that friend's house for a handful of months. So to them, it felt like we were renting, you know, just like I'd said we were. And then I remember when we said, hey, we're buying a house, woo! My kids got all excited, and one of them said, so we can have chickens. And I thought, you know, I'm not breaking my word, so we'll, I guess we'll try to fly under the radar and do the chicken thing. And now we've been here for a handful of years, and I really want a different place. I'd like to have a little, like an actual little piece of land. I'd really like to be able to get a vehicle into my backyard. You know, super narrow, and we're on a cul-de-sac, so we're shaped like a wedge, and so I don't have any real way between the water lines and the front yard or to get back here. Same thing on the other side. I got like a 4-foot space on the other side to try to maneuver anything back into my backyard. So it's pretty difficult. Can't get a trailer back here. we've tried all kinds of things. Like we cut the fence out and put hinges on it so that we could get through my neighbor's backyard to the road over there. But anyway, that's all to say that the farm next door is a very, very, very small little backyard homestead. Doing our best to figure out how to enjoy life and create life in this urban environment. So yeah, thanks for watching.